Welcome everyone to the presentation of our paper, Teaching the Value of Architecture. My name is Veronica Schröpfer from the Architects Council of Europe, and I wrote the paper together with Ana Sanchez, Larissa de Rosso, and Miriam Navarro. As an introduction, we were looking at the value that good architecture brings to a project and whether this value is actually taught at European architecture schools. So this encompassed a literature review of the different value areas that good architecture contributes to and different criteria in these areas. And this was then used to form an online survey amongst European architecture schools. This was all done in the context of a European funded research project called AAA Reno, which focuses on the occupant in the energy efficient renovation. We found out 7 value areas of good architecture. So it's economic, social, ecological, functional, cultural, health and well-being, and heritage. For each of these value areas, we found in literature different criteria. The time is too short to go into detail of all the criteria, so I will just name a few while I go through the slides. So for example, in the economic value area, good architecture can facilitate investment. So for example, if you have a very extraordinary architectural design of the building, or if you design, for example, a positive energy building. Ecologically, the value that architects can bring, of course, to mitigate climate change, to reduce the energy use, to choose different materials that are better for the environment, and so on. When we look at the social value that architects can bring, it is also about how livable the spaces are that architects create, how much they support diversity, and how inclusive they are, for example, for elderly. Architects bring huge value to heritage by making the heritage buildings of Europe more resilient and durable, so preserve it for the future generations and protect it. And of course, the functional value that architects can bring is something that influences the long lifespan of a building by making it more flexible and more adaptable to different users over a longer lifespan, and also looking at things such as daylight access, for example, floor to ceiling height, thermal mass, and so on. When we look at the cultural value, it is very much about the community in and around the building. So which kind of value does the building bring to the community and the public spaces around it? And health and well-being is a very interesting value area. When we look at the different indoor environmental quality factors, such as the air, the acoustics, the lighting, and the thermal comfort. So after we have conducted our literature review and we found out all the criteria that we sorted into these 7 value areas, we conducted an online survey amongst European architecture schools. Here you can see on this slide the participation of schools in which countries, and the ones that are named at the bottom are the ones that provided us with more additional information as well, because some of them were partners in the AAA Reno project. When we look at the overall results of the survey, we can see that out of the 7 value areas that we defined before, the heritage area is the most taught one at European architectural schools, at least at the one that participated in the survey, with 52.4%. It's followed by well-being, cultural, functional, social, and ecological value. And the economic value that architects can bring is at only 22.9%. Here on the right-hand side, we can see the results separated by the different countries that participated. So you can see, for example, here in the dark red, this is the United Kingdom, who teaches most values compared to the others, and followed by the Netherlands here in yellow, that teach, apart from well-being and the economic value, all other ones at almost 100%. And this gets less for the other countries. Now I'd like to focus on two different value areas. First, the health and well-being value area. So of course in the survey, we have asked all different criteria that we allocated to the different value areas. So here we can see the results for the health and well-being one. So for example, improve the thermal comfort was the most taught one with 59%, while improving healthy and active lifestyle is only at 32%. And when we look at the economic criteria, we can see that to ensure a cost-efficient budget for the construction project, it's a very traditional value, I would say, is the most taught one at 38%, and the others are taught even less with the risk of gentrification, for example. The increase of real estate value is only at 24%. To raise occupant productivity in offices is at only 18%. It's quite surprising that this is not taught as a value or not taught at the architecture schools. And facilitating investment is at only 12%. The reason why this is so surprising with what value architects can bring to the economic aspect of a project is we always have to think about if an architect herself does not perceive her work as valuable in a certain aspect, she cannot get paid for this, because then the client maybe doesn't perceive this value neither. So there might be a connection between the different value areas, and so the economic value area being taught so low, and the, in comparison, low salary of European architects. The Architects Council of Europe conducts a study on the salary of architects, and the average salary is only at 32,000 per year in Europe. So it would be interesting to investigate this connection further. As a conclusion, our paper investigated the different values of good architecture and defined out of literature different criteria that fit into these values. And then we created a survey amongst the European architecture schools out of this, where, as I said before, noteworthy is really that the economic value of architecture is the least taught area, and heritage is the most taught area. Thank you very much for your attention, and goodbye.